May 17, 2024. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. There was no economic data that came out today. It was a really slow day, actually. Most of the price action happened within, I would say, about a 15, actually less than that. Maybe from here, let's say 53.25, 53.26, to about, I think it'd be fair to say maybe about 52, 53.13. So it's about a 12 to 13 point range where most of the price action occurred. It was a breakout here, and then it rallied really hard back in for the last 30 minutes. This took a really long time to play out because it was just really slow price action, and the candles themselves were very tight because if this bigger trading range, which I drew, which looked like where most of the price action was occurring, is only about 9, maybe 10 points. And so it wasn't as if every leg was rapidly moving from one side to the other. So these candles are really, really tiny. So it just made it very slow. I took no trades today, and I found a few setups that I thought were decent trades. Besides this big I guess this big, larger trading range, there were some consistent highs and consistent lows. The thing that made it a little more challenging was if there was a consistent high, it didn't necessarily at the same time frame of the chart make consistent lows. So it was hard to really find the range because the range might just have highs that consistently hit or lows that consistently hit, but never too often where it was just kind of bouncing up and down, up and down. So I played a lot of these short-term trend channels, and there were a few setups that were close, but either the signal bar wasn't right or it just didn't look quite set up correctly because either it fell short of hitting past an extreme to really make you feel the momentum was there. So I'll go through the trades right now. Or actually, the setups. I didn't take any trades today. This kind of caps off a very, very slow week, which was very similar to last week. So this is the pre-market. You could already tell, it looked like it's going to be range bound because it's only about 11 points of trading. And even in 11 points, it didn't move from one side to the other too many times. So you technically have a new high, first entry long right here, second entry long, but this isn't a signal bar that you want to go long on. And it looks like it's potentially coming from here, maybe pushing back down to the lows here, but it's just too early because there's not enough candles being printed for you to get a really good idea of where things are going to go yet. So on the open, prices start to move. You have a first entry short. You technically have a second entry short. It didn't push all the way to the high. If it did push the high, I would have considered maybe a trade, but I also didn't like that this signal bar is an inside bar. And by the time you do get a confirmed second entry short, it just, even this bar didn't really finish that well. So it starts moving down. So you have a first entry long, a potential second entry long, but when you're seeing this in real time, the next candle doesn't break above and actually makes kind of this, in a way, an inside bar. But here, you don't, at least I didn't have enough confidence to know for sure we're in a trading range yet because you don't really have consistent highs yet. And the lows are making higher lows every time. So it could be starting to trend upwards in a very shallow rally. Prices then continue moving. You have a first entry short here. Then it creates a new low. It actually does create this measured move, which I found because I was watching this. I was thinking on the higher tick chart, like a 4,000 tick chart, I saw this and I said, okay, here it actually gets pretty close to a measured move. Technically, there's a new high here because you have a new high, first entry long pullback, second entry long, then it creates a new swing high. You have a first entry long pullback, potentially another second entry long here, and it did complete a measured move. Now I had several support lines throughout the day because I deleted it since then because it just made the chart messy. But I also had something like this. So I was thinking, is this potentially a fail breakout, which would help give more data to make you think to go long? And since the two measured moves down, possible fail breakout of this developing range, it's a good signal bar. I like that it broke out of this yellow channel right here, and it did test a new low. So it looks like the downtrend has played out. Could be bouncing off of something here, or it could be a fail breakout here and a reversal back in. So this candle I would have entered at the same highs because it made a double top. So I think I would have gotten filled here and probably would have gotten the quick scalp here. Prices then chop sideways. Let's go ahead and, okay, there we go. You do have a new low, first entry short, second entry short. The EMA isn't really acting as a very good indicator right now because you had some violations above and you had some violations below. So the price action really isn't respecting the EMA right now because it's moving above and below. So you're clearly just trading the range. But even in the trading range, at this point in time, it's hard to really know where the highs and lows are consistently going to be because I also had this line here at one time. And this line I just extended and I said, okay, clearly this is probably some kind of support being respected. But then had another failed breakout here. You do have a new high, first entry long, second entry long. It's coming from failed breakout, but I didn't really like what I saw here. But I did like this. So I saw this as a new high. Even though it's in a range, you have playing short-term trend channel. The green's moving down. It broke and tested the low. It made, so I think the downtrend's played out. So it's made one push up, second push up. So it's from here, first entry long, pullback, second entry long, and then a potential higher low, potentially bouncing off, or, even though it had a small breakthrough, bouncing off this potential support, which I had established. And I'm thinking there might be a trade here. I like the close of this signal bar. And it looked like there's enough momentum to quickly get a scalp before it hit the more important resistance up here. Yes, there's a double top here, but it's more, I think this one's the more bigger one in play. So it looked like it would have worked. Unfortunately, I didn't take it. Prices move up. It hits this pre-market high. Actually, the pre-market high technically is this guy right here, but I didn't like that this one candle, one bar ticked all the way up here while the rest of the price action is kind of lowered here. So I actually treated the range high here. So it's a potential fail breakout, but I wouldn't be surprised if it pushed up and tried to test this. Prices then kind of move down. So first entry long comes back, it tests again, makes a double top. So I'm thinking the yellow uptrend has played out. There could be a second push up to really test and successfully make the high, but I'm also looking that this trading range could start pulling prices back down and through. It was a first entry long, count resets, and then it starts flushing down. Unfortunately, there was no clear way for me to see to jump on this trade. You do technically have a new low here, the first entry short, but then you don't really quite get a second entry short either till about right here. So I did see this as a second entry short, but it's the inside bar. It was a little iffy. I just skipped it, but unfortunately, it turned out to be a really great move. Prices keep moving. So let me just extend this over to here. You do have a new low. It's technically hitting the low of this potential. So there's like not several, but there's two supports, one here and one here that I was considering. And then of course the pre-market low here. It looked like most of the price action might be affected by this one or this one. It wasn't the clearest for me to figure that out. I also saw a new low here. So first entry short, second entry short. I was going to mark this trade, but I didn't like that it closed right at the EMA because from time to time the EMA does come into effect. I would have rather just felt more comfortable if this closed at its low. But it turned out I was too conservative in my thinking because it looked like it was being rejected by this localized resistance. And so it did push down, but I just wasn't mentally prepared to see that and take that trade. Pushes down, it comes down, and it breaks past this low. But I still had this potentially in play because I actually kept this and drew a new one down here because I touched once, touched twice. I actually had a little bit higher. I ultimately put it here though. Prices then continue. I saw one measured move down, push up, and then potentially looking for another measured move, but it might be negated by the strength of this support. And it looked like that was what was happening. It starts pushing back up, pushes up on this yellow channel, breaks out, tests, and makes a new high. I'm thinking if this top of this resistance of this potential trading range is in play, then prices might come back down. So the part of the confusing thing today was it's overall in a big trading range, but inside there are smaller ranges or smaller support and resistance lines being acted upon. So that made it a little bit challenging for me to super trust, like this is going to be a turning point. Prices then continue moving down. So technically you have a new low, first entry short, pullback, second entry short, and then you also have a new high, first entry long, second entry long. It's a little confusing. I don't like these dojis, which is kind of sitting there. I didn't really like this price action right here. I just waited it out. Pushes down, breaks out, and it actually tests the low, the very low of the day, which was established in the pre-market. It flashed down and pushed back up. So I'm not thinking prices, and it also made a measured move. One big leg down, pull back, second big leg. I wasn't really thinking that I'm going to see prices crash necessarily because it just feels like price action is just really obeying a range. But I didn't really see a clean setup that I liked. So it's a new low, first entry short right here. Pull back. You have a second entry short. This is your signal bar. I just didn't really like the way it looked. There's too much stem here. I just wanted this to close lower or at least below this open or below the low here. It flushes down, kind of chops around. I saw this as a new high. It's a first entry long pullback, second entry long, but what was going with it was a new low, first entry short, second entry short, clear second entry short, potential second entry short is about to fail. First entry long, second entry long is about to be confirmed right here. It gets confirmed. The thing that kind of held me back was if I wanted to enter this trade, I wasn't too sure if this is going to act as a resistance. So there is enough room to scalp out, but it's barely enough room to comfortably scalp out because you did see some kind of resistance here, especially in the past. And there was a breakout here, but nothing says it won't, make a lower high or lower high because lower high here, lower high, and potentially this could reverse back down. So I was reluctant to jump in on a trade after seeing this, but it looked like it would have worked, and it looked like it would have been just enough, just enough for that 1 point scalp. So this would have been a more aggressive trade. Pushes down. I also saw a new high. It's a first entry long, pullback, second entry long, failure. So here it hasn't really hit the EMA yet. So you do see a second entry long. It's a weak looking second entry long. Unfortunately, it came from the highs here, so it could hit here and bounce and reverse right back up. So I call this an almost trade because it right here, when you do get a confirmed second entry long failure, there's an EMA rejection, but you had to see this candle play out, and I would be reluctant to take it on the engulfing right when it breaks below here because there's some kind of respect being paid to this support, and I don't want to see it bounce and get tricked into trapped and having the price action move right back up. So this just didn't quite line up because this was a very bearish close, and once it closed, I was reluctant to get another trade ready, like one tick below here, because of this pre-market low that's just kind of hanging out here. So I wasn't sure if, and there's just barely enough for a quick 1 point scalp, but I didn't want to risk it. And it does push through and it breaks out. So here, definitely the trade is too late. So if you weren't on it before, I wouldn't chase it. That's what I didn't do. Prices then continue moving down. Creates the new low, which I didn't know at the time was going to be the low of the day. So I'm watching this total price action right now. It's a range. It breaks out, may kind of like one leg down, push up, another leg down. I'm thinking prices might move back up into range on a bigger time frame or a bigger tick scale. This might just look like a failed breakout that comes back in, but I needed a really bulletproof setup to feel comfortable about that. You have a first entry short, you technically have a second entry short. It didn't break past the EMA, so definitely I'm not thinking long either because this yellow uptrend has played out. It broke, made a new high, but I'm not ready to take a short yet either because it just came from a low and it didn't break below the EMA. So it chops around sideways. This would have just been, I just wouldn't have liked to sit through this, especially seeing that now. So there's like all these candles in a row. You'd still be in the trade if you went long or short because you probably would have seen this, maybe have gone short one tick before. And so you'd be sitting, if you, whatever entry you took in here, long or short, you'd be sitting in this right now. And then finally, it looks like it breaks up and out. Prices then continue moving up. You do have a new high, first entry long right here, second entry long. I wanted this to actually touch the lower trend line support, and then I would have considered a trade. Then prices keep moving up. Now, watching this print out was very slow because this is pretty much almost the entire day now. There's only 30 minutes left. And just watching this, by the time I got to here and I saw some trades I missed, but I didn't see very many other enticing trades. I decided like I need to just probably just ride it out and don't try to force a trade at this point. So I did see this as a new high, first entry long pullback, second entry long. I thought this is an almost trade as well. The thing I didn't like about it, it's a good signal bar, but it's inside. But this strength of this close of the signal bar might justify a trade. The unfortunate thing is it's running right up to the highs. So it is a break of this green channel. But this green channel, I didn't I felt like it was too shallow. It has multiple legs in it. And when it broke out, it didn't try very strongly to push back in. Plus, it was already on the low side support of this green channel. If it came from something like here, bounced and then went back up, I would consider, okay, maybe it's moving back in strongly. But what happened was it failed to reach this side. It kind of chops sideways. Then it finally breaks out, makes a second entry long. I needed it to bounce off the EMA to feel comfortable. And this is already the high of the day. If this chart looked different, like there was more price action up here, and so I wasn't already trying to press for a new high of the day, then I would have considered it. But nevertheless, it is a trade set up here. And it looked like if you took it, you would have gotten it and probably gotten a 1 point scalp, but it just felt dicey. So I'm pretty happy I didn't take it. And prices continue moving, chops around. It looks like it's having trouble. This pre-market high wasn't established by these three candles. It was actually established very early on, way back here. So it looked like it's going to hold, but here it's definitely too late in the day to try to take any trades because I'm already entering the last 10 minutes. And just the last 10 minutes, it gets a little bit choppy, not as wild as we've seen in the past, but then it pushes out and goes into the close. So overall, there was some interesting price movement today, but other than that, I didn't really see that many clean setups. The difficulty was that overall, the larger trading range is easy to kind of establish after the fact, but in real time, you're wondering if these smaller sections are good support and resistances. The problem is they'll just be by themselves though. They won't be really creating a range because sometimes the range at the high fits pretty well, but the bottom doesn't fit well. So you're not really trading ranges so much as you're trading support and resistance lines, which is a little more, at least for me, a little bit harder to read and trust if it's a failed breakout. So hopefully that was helpful.